This is Tom Mulhern, who is a 25-year Evanston resident, and he is a marketing and innovation consultant. And I've talked to Tom over the many months about reparations. Why do you believe that all white Evanston residents and white-led organizations and predominantly white faith-based organizations and members of those organizations should support reparations in Evanston? And why do you think that the responsibility goes above and beyond the obligation of the municipal government?
Well, I guess, thanks, Nina, and thanks for asking my opinion. I think it's kind of simple. There's a collective debt owed, and it needs to be repaid. So the way that the United States was put together, capital and value and prestige and comfort have accumulated unequally along caste lines for centuries. And in the United States, that's wrapped up in our warped conceptions of race and racial attitudes across the board, but in particular, racial attitudes toward the people, the descendants of the people we enslaved for at least half of those centuries. So it's a real debt with real consequences to opportunity and equality and power. And I just don't think at the end of the day, you can repay that debt with lip service and nice words. And so if you aren't willing to acknowledge and pay your share of that debt, then all the nice words that you could speak aren't just empty, they're kind of phony and counterproductive. I guess that answer is not just about the responsibility of so-called white people in Evanston or specifically, it's that answer would be about the entire United States and maybe more broadly than that. But as with anything, fundamental, whether that's education or safety or health or anything, you have to act first with the people nearest you. So I don't think that acting locally gets in the way of acting globally or vice versa. Kind of have to do both. I think, first of all, I think the city's reparation fund is very important. It's historic. It's an act of leadership. It is a way of our civic leaders across a pretty broad spectrum of our civic leaders saying, this is needed, this is just. At the same time, it's not nearly sufficient. And how could it be sufficient? But I think, the city as a city did specific harms of a specific type with specific impacts that were documented clearly. So that's where I think beyond the city fund, the rest of us as families and individuals and companies did other harms, benefited from harms done by other people in Evanston, not in Evanston, et cetera. And those harms also need to be acknowledged and repaired. And they should be repaired in ways that feel right and just to the people who were harmed or who are inherited that harm. So that's why I'm glad, locally that there is also the Reparations Stakeholder Authority that's emerged, and also that the state and national campaigns continue as well. I'm sure, like a lot of people, I sort of followed the debate about reparations, read Ta-Nehisi Coates' Case for Reparations, kind of like noodled it around in my head, and I continue to. For some reason, the thing that persuaded me and kind of triggered the first contribution I made to the effort directly from my bank account was a friend of mine who sort of said, look, America keeps kicking this can. It was during the summer of 2020, and so it's just this can we keep kicking down the road. We don't fix it, and we don't fix it, and we don't do anything, and we retreat from the things. We start to do things like Reconstruction or the war on poverty, and then we back away from them because they're uncomfortable or difficult, or they move somebody's cheese just a little too far. It was sort of reading that and thinking, well, what's the, and why do we keep kicking that can down the road? And how do you stop kicking a can down the road? And I think it just dawned on me that the way you do that is you just act. And it may be imperfect, but it's just time. And if not now, when? If not me, who? It's a moral tax, so to speak. that's owed.